Joining us from Gerber Kawasaki is Hatem Dhiab, the managing partner of that firm. Thanks so much for joining us, Hatem. I remember asking you how you felt about Tesla engineers moonlighting over at Twitter. At the time, I think, you were kind of okay with it. Since then, there have been more stock sales. There's been more pressure on Tesla generally. And so it sounds like the tune at your firm, which has been, quite publicly bullish, is starting to change.
Thank you, Amber, for having me back. Yeah, I think everyone is frustrated with how things have kind of panned out with the Twitter buyout. I think the focus of Elon has been really going towards Twitter versus Tesla, which is really like the golden child. And we just want a little bit more focus from him. We just want a little better governance for the company and just really better communication, right? Like what's happening, what is Elon spending his time? What are the resources being used? And I think that would just help investors have more confidence in the company.
So what's actionable here? You guys are a relatively small shareholder in the company that is pretty well controlled by Elon Musk, both in terms of stock and the board. Is it realistic that some of your concerns are going to be heard?
Listen, I think we're trying to say what we think should be done. If it happens or not, I think that's up to Tesla's boards and Tesla. But at the end of the day, I think every investor will really benefit from Elon and the board having better communication around when Elon is going to sell stock, for example. That should not happen on a whim when, the stock market is already under pressure, and then you see the CEO sell about $4 billion worth of stock. So some things like this can be changed, and I think that will alleviate a lot of the concerns.
So is that your main concern, communication around those issues versus strategic direction of the company, and whether Elon himself is damaging the brand? As he becomes increasingly more political, for example, is it becoming a political statement to buy a Tesla?
I mean, that's absolutely right. There was a brand associated with Tesla that Elon has damaged a little bit. At the end of the day, the company itself is doing really well. I don't know if you've seen the EV numbers, but Tesla has 60% of the EV market share in the States. And yeah, that's going down. But ultimately, if the CEO becomes very political and it starts really kind of damaging the brand, then you're going to start losing some of your customers and, frankly, some of your early supporters. And I think that's what's happening to the brand right now.
And it's interesting you talk about the fundamentals still being strong, because there, too, there's concern, specifically in China, and what all these price cuts are saying about the strength that it's having in such an important market.
Well, China is the largest EV market in the world, with about 4 million plug-in EVs sold last year. Tesla has about 10% of that market share. And Teslas are just more expensive than the Chinese manufacturers. So actually, Tesla in China has some really good competition, but still has a fairly good market share in the luxury market. And I think the fact that they reduce some of their pricing is really kind of trying to smooth out inventories and really try to be more competitive.
And is there a part of you that if you're looking at the electric vehicle market, and we're going to talk about this later in the show, that thinks, there are other opportunities. It's a broadly growing market. Why not just go elsewhere?
Listen, there is a lot of EVs that are going to be sold going forward. I think that's really the biggest and most bullish story, is that the EV market is growing at twice, 3x every year. So the TAM, the total addressable market, is going to keep growing. Tesla is just the leader in this space. They are basically 4 or 5 years ahead of everyone else. They manufacture their own batteries. The product is just much better. And yeah, there is competition that's coming into the space, and people should look at that. And we actually even own some other EV makers, and we own the whole infrastructure around battery making. But ultimately, I think Tesla is really kind of the leader and the one that created this market, and will continue to be the leader.
And have you guys spoken to other shareholders? Is there kind of an underlying movement afoot? Some of the small shareholders like yourself getting together to kind of add up to bigger numbers that force the company to pay attention to what you're asking?
We talk to shareholders every day. I think a lot of people come to us for advice and really figuring out what's next for Tesla. And I think the feeling or the sentiment is really the same, as everyone is frustrated about the lack of communication from Tesla and what's happening with the board and Elon.